Hey, good morning, everybody. I think we're going to get started. My name is Elaine Katz. I'm with Kessler Foundation in New Jersey, USA. And I want to welcome you to our workshop on Funding and Accelerated Assistive Technologies, or AT, where we explore the critical intersection of innovation, investment, and accessibility. The session highlights the Zero Project Awardees and their respective accelerators and global online platforms, which we've been able to develop models that have successfully funded and/or accelerated all of assistive technology and startups. We have on our panel this morning Diego Mariscal from Together International USA, Gideon Grinstein from he's the founder and president of Tikkun Olam Makers, USA. We also have Klaus Hoeckner, Assisted Technology Incubator, Austria. Archie Moberly from SEEDSTARS in South Africa. And we're missing one of our panelists, Varun Chandak, Access to Success Organizations in Canada. So hopefully he'll be here soon. Assistive technologies have the power to transform lives, breaking down barriers for individuals with disabilities and fostering greater independence, inclusion, and participation in society. However, despite the immense potential of these technologies, securing adequate funding and scaling solutions to market remains a significant challenge for innovators, researchers, and entrepreneurs. Tech tools are often created for people with disabilities, yet processes for designing and develop technology may exclude the same people it is supposed to benefit. When technology is deployed or used irresponsibly by business, governments, NGOs, and communities, it further marginalizes disabled people. Technology solutions created for people with disabilities without their input can fail to meet the disabled community's diverse need or interest. Advancing assistive technology development requires a strong focus on inclusive design, sustainable funding, and collaborative innovation. Engaging individuals with disabilities in the creation process ensures that solutions are both effective and reflective of their diverse needs. Overcoming financial and systematic barriers is essential to bringing impactful technologies to market, fostering greater accessibility, independence, and participation in society. This workshop will provide valuable insights into funding strategies, investment opportunities, and key accelerators that can drive assistive technology forward. So let's get started. The first speaker is going to be Diego Mariscal, Together International.
Well, first of all, thank you, Elaine. Really excited to be here. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. So I'm going to share a little bit about Together International in general and a little bit about our history. So as Elaine said, my name is Diego Mariscal. I am the founder and CEO of Together International. And I'll share a bit about my story, and that will weave into Together's story. So I was actually born in the States by accident. My parents, who were both Mexicans, were shopping, and I was born 6 months and a half into my mom's pregnancy. She always jokes and says that I've always been really stubborn. Even before I was born, I wanted to get out quickly. And as a result, I have CP, cerebral palsy, which affects mostly my ability to walk. But the fortune of growing up in Monterrey, Mexico, for those of you who know your Mexican geography, was that Monterrey, Mexico is sort of the Silicon Valley of Mexico. And so I grew up seeing the power of innovation, creativity to create social change. And on the flip side, as a person with a disability, I also saw how we as disabled people have those skills and abilities sort of innate with us. As disabled people, we have to figure out how do we address how we drive, how we communicate, how we live in a world that is not built to fit our needs. And yet, as Elaine said, there's a lack of funding, lack of support for disabled people, specifically working in assistive technology or innovative spaces, because there's a lack of understanding of the ecosystem and the market opportunities. So that's the problem that Together International is solving. We are the largest accelerator in the world supporting founders with disabilities from across 15 countries around the world, providing them with resources, mentorship, and support so that they can grow and scale their businesses. So far, we've supported over 700 entrepreneurs from all around the world, helping them gain access to over $70 million in funding, revenues, and acquisitions. Some of our examples include Eric Ingram, who's doing satellite inspection in space. Keely Cadwells, who many of you might know, she's doing working on a company that improves media representation for folks with disabilities. Lachi, who's working in the music industry to improve representation of disabled people in that space. So there's a breadth of technologies and innovations that founders are working on that not only make their businesses better, but the overall community better. And so the last point I'll end on is we talk about a lack of funding for founders with disabilities. Well, in fact, there are a number of funds that support underrepresented founders. There's not a single fund that focuses on founders with disabilities. We at Together International, amongst many of the people hopefully in this room, want to change that and want to see that shift. And so we're working on deploying the first ever fund for founders with disabilities, using philanthropic capital to make market rate investments through a $5 million philanthropic fund that will actually make investments in founders with disabilities. And so know that by investing in these innovations, when we think about curb cuts, when we think about glasses, when we think about sliding doors, those might be marketed or thought about as assistive technology, but at the end of the day, they help and support everybody. And so while we are designing and thinking about assistive technology for the disability community, we are really supporting the largest minority in the world, which includes everybody if they've lived long enough. So thank you for having me, and I hope we get a chance to connect throughout the conference.
Thank you, Diego. What we're going to do is have everybody present, and then at the end we'll open up for some questions as well. So we're moving to another group that also works with and is in entrepreneurship in a slightly different way. Our next speaker is Gideon Grinstein from Tikkun Olam makers.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here. I'm a white male in a dark blue suit, white shirt with stripes, and red, pink tie. And I'm solidly built, and great to be here. I'm going to start with a little confession. When Tom, Tikkun Olam Makers, the venture that we created, was launched, it was, I was in a moment of I was on a crossroads. And the reason I was on a crossroad is that I had been in the, is this where I press? Is this where I press? Okay. I had been in the nonprofit world for 10 years, and I was really tired. I was tired of the fundamental problems of that space, primarily the permanent scarcity of resources. So I was thinking, reconsidering my path, and then at that moment, roughly in 2014, the idea of Tom began to take shape. So my approach was, go big or go home. Meaning, if we can't think of a big idea, we're moving on, I'm moving on personally in my life to another challenge. And that is the personal reason why scaling has been at the core thinking, fundamental thinking of Tom since day one. Meaning, if we didn't have, my approach was, if we didn't have our scaling strategy in place, the whole venture was not interesting. So I basically brought our team together for very long discussions in order to crystallize the scaling strategy. And we had a scaling strategy before we had one product and one machine working for us. And that is basically that has shaped the way we have been carrying our venture. I do come from a different world. I come from the world of strategy, especially in diplomacy and economic development. And I was always interested in making society work for everybody. So I had that background coming into this conversation. What you're seeing here is our mission statement, our purpose. I'm sorry for the translators for moving forward. And over here, the vision. I want to speak about those elements because they're crucially important. We are in a world where understanding the fundamental layer of our organizations is absolutely critical for scale. Meaning, we have to have harmony between the vision, the mission, the purpose, the unique value proposition, the strategy, the structure, the economic model, and the key efforts of our venture. When we have that harmony, it can serve us for years to come. And if there is no harmony like that, the system at some point breaks down. So really having clarity, sorry for going back, on the mission, vision, purpose, and then these other elements that are mentioned, the unique value proposition, in my view, is essential for the ability to scale. Now we have to be really honest about the fundamental challenges of our space. Number one, there is no incentive to scale in our space. And the reason is, in the business world, 1 out of 10 startups succeeds, 9 fail. The one that succeeds has to pay for the 9 that failed. And that means that there is a structural incentive to scale the one startup that succeeds. We don't have that in our space because we operate in a place where there is no market solution and no government solution. This is basically where we are. And at that intersection, there's no incentive for scale. So instead of looking for business models, I thought that we should look for an economic model. And what's the difference? The difference is that an economic model, there is demand and supply. There is abundance and scarcity. And if we can figure out a platform that brings together the abundance with the scarcity, we can actually hit scale. And I believe I'm talking about a fundamental challenge facing all of us here. So effectively, we have also to be very, very honest about what kind of innovation is leading our ventures. Meaning, is it technical innovation, technology, or is it social innovation, which is how we organize people to get things done? We realized that in spite of the fact that we're dealing with technical issues, we are about, meaning Tom, we're about social innovations. We are organizing and mobilizing people to do things. And that means that the primary driver of our innovation is actually the methods that we're putting forward, and not necessarily the technology. Although some people that are looking at us think that we're a technical innovation venture. The last thing I'll say in the few seconds that I have left is, I want to point out to this concept of moonshot thinking. Moonshot thinking is basically about dealing with a huge problem, with a breakthrough idea, and coming up with a radical solution. And with that, I'll close. Sorry I didn't get into the deeper into the strategy. I believe that if you can identify both sides of the market, meaning big demand and big supply, abundance and scarcity, and build the platform that brings them together, you'll be able to fund it. Thank you.
Thank you, Giddy. I think everybody on the panel can identify with go big or go home, especially at this conference, right? We're going big and we want to go home with some information, and that's why we're all here to learn from these wonderful entrepreneurs and inventors. So next we have Klaus Hoeckner from Accessible Technology Incubator in Austria.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here. I come from a little bit different angle. I think I'm the mouse here. You are the elephants. The job that feeds me is I'm the CEO of an organization for blind and visually impaired persons here in Austria, and it was the starting point for me to see, to work in many, let's say, governmental funded or European Union funded projects, and I've seen when we have done all these projects, and at the end of the 2 years period, 3 years period, all the projects went to the graveyard. We had the websites then, websites, no maintenance, and 2 years later we had another project with the same topic, with the same issue, and all of them, they promise to solve all the problems that we have in the field of assistive technologies. And that was the starting point for me also to go to Zero Project, because I'm here also as an ambassador of Zero Project, and Zero Project is trying to find all these solutions that we have, and I'm here as a combiner, as a networker. I don't offer a service that I can say to you, okay, I have 2 billion or whatever, which I can offer to the people or to companies coming to me, but I can offer you one thing. I can offer you the entrance to the European market, and the European market is the biggest market. Don't forget it. Now it's bigger than the United States of America. We have 460 million people. In the 460 million people, we have 20% of persons with disabilities. Now, with the changing situation with America, I think there's a big chance for Europe to be the market leader in accessibility. We have the European Accessibility Act upcoming, which is the first time having teeth, let's see, during the 27 countries of the European Union, where we have market surveillance, where we have the assumption that all the products that are coming onto the market are really accessible to the rules, accessible to WCAG, international rules, and all these things. My job is to bring companies from all over the world to Europe. That's the reason why I'm working together, for example, with Enable Africa. I'm working together with Enable India, AT4D, for example, Bernard Chiara. They're all collecting their ideas in other countries, in other continents. Yeah? And if they want to come to Europe, then I give them the stage. I help them to found companies. I help them in legal aspects. I help them in financial aspects. But it must be a minimum viable product. It is like Gideon said, 9 out of 10 are failing. Yeah? But if I have one product, yeah, which shoots up to the moon, then all the other efforts that I have done are more than overcompensated. And that's the thing why I'm doing this. And no, the real thing why I'm doing this is another thing. The real thing is I do think we do not have to reinvent the wheel. We all work in competition. Why? Why don't we combine it to one big hub where we have all the solutions and the people can choose what they want to have, for example. And it's not always the thing that when we are designing products out of the community, that these products are the real products that the people need, because we are in our silo. Let's see, for example, when we had to change to the mobile phone, the blind community was upset. Oh, we never will be able to phone again. Yeah, it's not possible for us. Yeah, we changed the concept, and now we have smartphone as one of the most important assistive technologies for persons with disabilities, especially for blind and visually impaired persons. And nobody can imagine to work without a smartphone. Yeah? But smartphones are mass production. They are not designed for persons with disabilities. They are designed for the Mr. Average and Miss Average. Yeah. So that's the thing. Yeah? And I'm now at the end. Yeah. Thank you very much. Approach me if you want to know more. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. No problem. Contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Klaus. I think everybody has some questions on how you can get everybody together without duplicating projects, because I know we've seen that all the time And that's a good thing we're all here at this conference, because people come with new ideas and think it's really new, and then somebody in another country has already done that or improved upon it. So I think that's the purpose of why we're all here. Our next speaker is Archie Moberly from SEEDSTARS, South Africa.
Good morning, everyone. As Elaine said, I'm Archie Moberly, and I'm the program lead for SEEDSTARS' Seed Inclusivity Program. SEEDSTARS is a Swiss-founded venture capital firm, and we're on a mission to impact people's lives through entrepreneurship. And we do this by backing entrepreneurs with community, capital, and know-how. I myself am a lifelong user of assistive technology. You can see in the photo on the board my chunky hearing aids I had from the age of a young boy. But I'm not here to talk about my story. You're maybe wondering, what role does a venture capital have to play in accelerating inclusive innovation? And that is exactly the question that we at SEEDSTARS had in partnership with Visa Foundation. And we researched very heavily what are the challenges and the pain points that entrepreneurs with disabilities and founders of assistive technologies are facing. And that's how the Seed Inclusivity Program came to life. And it's a tailored growth program providing customized support for entrepreneurs with disabilities or founders of assistive tech across Asia and beyond. And we do this by backing the entrepreneurs with mentorship, access to networks, financial training, internationalization support, and customized support in other various forms. One of the founders you see in this photo grew up with a lifelong passion for art. Yet every single museum visit for her reminded her of the barriers that she faced. She was not able to really kind of experience these exhibits and engage with the art that was there due to her visual impairment. And so, determined to change this, she saw this barrier as an opportunity. So she co-founded Grailmaker, and this is to ensure that no one else would feel excluded from the beauty of art and from exhibitions. So that's what's really driving us in our programs like Seed Inclusivity, is this impact, a personal story of someone who saw a barrier and saw it as an opportunity. And Grailmaker uses QR codes and a smartphone app to provide audio descriptions for event spaces and museums and galleries and so on, and has gone on to empower over 3,000 people since it's been founded in 2021 in India. That's 3,000 people who have been able to enjoy a piece of art. 3,000 people learning the history of a place or a country, and 3,000 people just understanding new perspectives of the world. This is the story of just one of the founders that we are working with. And at Seed Inclusivity, we believe over the next 3 years, we'll be working with 45 founders, 30% of which are women founders, 40% of which are founders with disabilities. And we believe by empowering them and helping them to scale their solutions, we can reach over 12,000 people with disabilities. And along the way, create over 540 jobs. And that's kind of just the beginning. There's a challenge for, I'll give you a bit of context for my own story of innovation being a huge transformation in my life. I've only had waterproof hearing aids for a year and a half. Before that, I couldn't go outside if it ever even looked like it was going to rain. I couldn't swim, I couldn't go to gym classes because I could never hear the instructor after 5 minutes. And so I know that innovation has a huge, profound effect on people. However, a company like SEEDSTARS, how can we deliver that level of quality, a high level of quality of support to startups at scale? It's a huge challenge for ESOs like us, entrepreneur support organizations. So we actually came up with an AI-driven tool called Sigma. And Sigma is here to essentially plug the gap of one of the biggest challenges that startups face, which is achieving product market fit. And what Sigma does is it helps founders along every step of their entrepreneurial journey, and it provides and creates new customer segments for them, business models, value propositions, and it allows them to validate and test assumptions so that they can achieve that product market fit fast. And this is a personalized experience for each entrepreneur that's on the platform. So they can have a personal sort of consultant helping them to get there as fast as possible. And we, as an ESO, can deliver this at a huge scale. So for 30-something years, I couldn't go outside in the rain, I couldn't swim, whatever. And now with these, it's cheesy, but I can actually go and dance in the rain, which is great. So with Seed Inclusivity, what we're really trying to do is not just support other entrepreneurs who have a vision, but also help them support the other people they are serving as a product or a service. So together at SEEDSTARS, we're building a world where people like Ashwarya, the founder of Grail Maker, she saw a barrier and she made it into an opportunity. And innovation, as I've seen it myself, is such a big key, and innovation becomes inclusivity. Thank you.
I think before we move to Q&A, I'm going to go through the panel and ask everybody some follow-up questions, because I had so many questions after hearing some of this, and then perhaps we can hear the questions you have. So Archie, I'm sure you get a lot of people knocking on your door looking for money, because they know you're giving away money. How do you vet the entrepreneurs? How do you determine, before they even go through your quality process, that this is something that you want to work with and it's a viable idea?
Yeah. So a bit of the investment mandate behind SEEDSTARS is a few things, but one of the things that we're really looking at in all of our investments is investability, of course, but it's the innovation, the scalability, and the impact that we can have. And this is not something that is always very obvious with some startups. For example, a physical product, for example, maybe like a prosthesis, can be a challenge to scale up and deliver at a large scale. But there can be a technology or a distribution channel or something like that that helps them to support that. So you're right, we get a lot of people knocking at our door, but a lot of it comes down, do we believe in the scalability? And the entrepreneurs that we've brought into our programs have all managed to show a decent amount of traction as well in terms of the growth, and we believe that sort of sets the tone of the growth that they can then achieve in the future.
Thank you. Klaus, how do you get people to focus on one strategic idea? So you said you work with programs that had many ideas. How do you get them to really hone in on one strategic idea and make sure that they are able to follow through and bring it to market?
Yep. One of the most important things is that they have to show to us that there is a unique selling point. Why? I changed the position. I'm the entrepreneur, and I want to know from the people. Why should I buy your product? Why should I buy your service? And you have to explain it to me. And the second thing is, I test it against real users. So we are going to the real users. We ask them, do you see any chance in doing this? That's the reason why we can't do anything. We can't do prostheses, for example. Wheelchairs is also not my cup of tea. Yeah? When we talk about solutions, then we talk about solutions where my knowledge is. This means a person with visual impairments, blind persons, ICT. That's the thing. That's my cup of tea where I'm working on. But nevertheless, the people have to prove that they are able to convince a group of people that their product is the best product, and they are able to sell it to them.
So you're saying what makes it unique? I think that's on this panel, what makes each of these presenters unique is what they're talking about. It seems like most people are not familiar with it and not doing it, so it's really unique in itself. So Diego, you mentioned that you're looking for some seed funders to invest in your group and then to in turn fund some new ideas. What are the investors going to get back? How is that going to work for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So great question. So one component that we didn't really talk about was really the market opportunity of the disability space. Meaning the disability community is the largest minority in the world. More than 1 million people have a disability. That's 15% of the population. For comparison purposes, that market is almost as big as China, right, in terms of the market opportunity for disabled people. So there's a real opportunity to look not only at innovative solutions, but also at market returns of investment, where there's a real opportunity to be a pioneer in those type of technologies, those type of innovations. And what's interesting is, you mentioned sort of iPhone or smartphones created, or I think somebody else in the panel mentioned, iPhones created by your average person. When in fact, the technology that underlines the smartphones that you press on the screen was actually developed by a blind individual because of tactile related technology. And so when you think about it, when you are able to design for the margins, you are then able to convert that product into the masses, right? So when you think about smartphones that were actually designed, the underlying technology was designed for blind individuals. When you think about, again, curb cuts that were originally designed for people in wheelchairs, toothbrush, audiobooks, et cetera, that are being designed for the margins, but then have the capability of having greater adoption from the market, that's really where the innovation lies. And so to go back to your question of what can investors get back, really an opportunity to be disruptive, innovative, not only in the assistive technology market, but in the market at large.
Thanks, Diego. Gideon, you talked a lot about scale. What do you mean by scale?
So what I mean by scale is the ability to serve a lot of people where they are at a price point that they can afford. And this is really highlights, I believe, the tragic conundrum of our space. And that is, if you have a product with an investor and you protect the IP, the intellectual property, you're immediately pushed to raise the price of the product. And because the demand curve, sorry for using economic terms, the demand curve is inflexible, meaning people are desperate to get the product, the price goes up. And then there's actually structural exclusion of so many people, meaning the business model of our space is fundamentally flawed. And especially when we protect the IP, we are excluding the long tail of the demand curve. Okay, we go to business schools and they tell us that demand and supply, it looks like this, right? Demand and supply, and everybody knows that. But really the demand curve goes all the way over there. And at the end over there are the one-offs, the people that need a really special solution. And nobody can address them with market tools. And that's why we have to come up with an economic model, not a market model. I'm very, very skeptical that any disability inclusion tool can go to scale. Because the only way you go to scale is to move to the center of the business model. And therefore you're excluding the people with real disabilities. So to me, the ability to go to scale is the ability to figure out a strategy that helps many people where they are at a price point that they can afford. And I know it's a very hard intellectual process, but I also believe that a great project begins with rigorous intellectual approach. And when the top-down thinking and the bottom-up activity comes together, really that's where the magic is.
Thank you. I think you've heard from our panel about all their strategies, and you, I'm sure, have lots of questions. So we're going to open up now for if you have questions. So, yes. Use the microphone, please. You can press it in front of you.
Hopefully that works. Thanks very much. Really appreciated this. I'm based in London, both a neurodivergent trying to connect up other similar founders and disabled entrepreneurs, as well as try to do some of this myself. And I see the difficulties of access to resources and things because they're not made very inclusive for people. I really appreciated that point around the economic model and agreeing with both sides of the market that you have to think of, because this is something I advise the UK government on very much, but to see this at a systemic level. But trying to do this for this kind of technology and to reach these audiences means that you have a lot of players to deal with. You have government, you have business, education, health, to sort of help fill the gap between those two sides, the startup side and going to market. So how, because of the nature of this, how to sort of understand the incentives and motivations of each of these players that are very different, and incentivize them to become part of these two sides of the market and drive some, well, economy, if you like. Because I think it's very difficult to find a way to motivate a lot of the key players we need to create, to connect up the two sides of this economy. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the economic models and about market models and about all these things, but I think we really fail as a community to address the market players, that we are one of the biggest markets, one of the biggest target groups in the world. As he said before, yeah, we all have 1.4 billion people, and count the relatives, count all the friends that you have, then we have a market of 2 billion people, and we don't address this. The people don't address this market because they don't see the market. Because we only see it in this carrot and stick thing. Yeah? When you look to America, for example, I had a conversation with a lawyer in America, and he said, you don't need to involve the people, only sue, because if there is anything which is not good, yeah, on a website, for example, or whatever, yeah, you don't have to involve the people, sue, and then you get the money, and I get a part of the money, and it's not about the people. Yeah, it's not about the people to address the people, what are the people needs. And one of the most important things is we don't see the market also for elderly people. Don't forget, in the European Union, for example, we will have in 5 years' time, yeah, we have more than 30% of people being older than 65. And nobody wants to hear this, yeah, but being old means being disabled. My grandmother, before she died, always says, I'm not disabled, I only see, I don't see very good, yeah. I'm not disabled, I don't need a, yeah, I'm mobility constrained, but yeah, I'm not disabled, yeah. But it's also a market that we can address, yeah. And that's the defragmentation of the market leads us to many silo solutions. As I said it before, yeah, we have to find a solution like we had it with the smartphone, yeah, which provides as a side effect one of the biggest opportunities for persons with disabilities, for example.
Thank you, Klaus. Well, let's take another question.
Good morning. I'm very pleased to hear so many diverse opinions on this panel, and I'd like to understand what everyone's thoughts are on how funding, approaches to funding can be improved to focus on capability improvements instead of, as you were just saying, Klaus, individual use cases that after 2 years are died. Do you see a path to a holistic funding overhaul where we focus on approaching funding in disability with a capability mindset instead of an individual use case mindset?
So this is music to my ears, right? Because this is the space that we're working on, and it's actually a very interesting question and concept that we're thinking about. So I actually think, for whatever controversial this sounds, I actually think philanthropy has a big role to play in this. What I mean by that is, right now, all of us in this room, most of us in this room, understand the capability or the market opportunity for the disability space. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Unfortunately, this room does not represent the majority of the people, right? And so there is a learning need for the masses of understanding what is the competitive advantage of disability and what is the opportunity for the market. And I think that is where philanthropy has a significant role to play. Meaning, philanthropy tends to be exploratory capital, right? Whether it's an investor that has capital that they want to deploy for philanthropic purposes, a corporation, et cetera, that philanthropic capital, in some ways, by its nature, can be experimental capital that then you can deploy to prove certain models at scale. So I think this is particularly pertains to the States, but in the United States, under the IRS model, which is the model that nonprofits use to have their nonprofit status, there's a terminology called program-related investments, which allows nonprofits to make investments in companies, and then the returns of those investments go back into the organization to become an evergreen model, which means in perpetuity. So I think that the way to bridge that gap is you use philanthropic capital so they get a tax write-off, and then you use that model to demonstrate what the return on investments are, and then after doing that at scale, you use that to demonstrate the market returns. We can nerd about that later, but that's high level.
Thank you, Diego. Another question?
Hi. I keep hearing a lot of skepticism from Gideon, which I like hearing that because the world is a tough place and you need to embrace the difficulties. I hear the word market a lot and community a lot. And as a product developer and engineer, I know how hard it is to sell a product. So this is a question. I don't know how to answer it. Hopefully you have an answer. Is it possible to create a marketplace community for assistive technology that is where everybody goes to look? That's the Amazon. Because if, as a developer, if I create a product, I might think it's a great product, but the world doesn't know about it, and I don't have $1 million advertising budget. How do I get it out there for my audience without me investing a massive amount of money? So is there a way for people who need assistive technology to go to that place so that us developers can put our products there and have a better chance of success?
I want to, with your permission, I'd like to spice up the debate here. I don't think we're a $1.4 billion market, 1.4 billion people market. If we were, the real markets would have identified that already. We're just a lot of niche conditions, okay? And the problem of a person who has a head injury and wants to play music, which is really almost a one-off, is totally different from someone who has a kind of a standard vision impairment, okay? We are not a 1.4 billion people market. I think this is one of the misconceptions that we have about ourselves. We are a lot of niche conditions, and when we understand ourselves as niche conditions, and if we remain loyal to the people that really need us, which is the people over there, not in developed countries like Austria or the United States, in developing countries, in rural areas, the poor people, the one-offs, this is where we're tested, over there. Not here in the demand curve where there is supply and then there is insurance companies that pay for the product so you can hike the price of the product, etc., etc. This is where we're tested. And this is why I think that really a fork in the road for us, for all entrepreneurs in our sector, is yes IP or no IP. The moment you protect the IP, number one, you have legal costs. You can't go international. You can't send it overseas because you need to protect it. Oh my God, if someone copies you, whatever, you know. And then you're on one track. And if you want to go no IP, open source, public domain intellectual property, you're on another track. And then you can go global. Then you can go rural. Then you can go you can operate in countries where there's no Amazon type distribution infrastructure, etc., etc., etc. So this is really the fork in the road. I know it's a little bit radical. I think that most inclusive technologies need to be no IP. If we're really loyal to our space, no IP. The second thing I want to say is that when we're talking about technical innovations, because of the acceleration in the pace of change that happens all over the world, I think that the goal of a tech entrepreneur in our space is to be sold as soon as possible to a bigger venture. Because we will be blown out of the water. I can give you an example. 6 years ago, in one of our hackathons, we had people using blinking of an eye for ALS to interface with a computer screen. We thought, wow, it's such a great thing. Now I come to Austria and I see avatars that are translating immediately for ALS patients, the dialogue into multiple languages. So, if the pace of technological change is so big that if someone here is credibly involved in technical innovation for people with disabilities, I believe your goal is to get sold into a bigger platform that they can actually scale it, because we don't have the ability to scale.
Thanks, Giddy. I think you opened up a conversation. Archie, did you want to add? Or Klaus?
I do have a thought around the idea of a marketplace, and it's one that I think is incredibly tricky, and Gideon's talking about it, is because of the diversity of disability, and even in one type of disability, there's a diverse experience of that disability. So how do you then capitalize that? And it sounds weird to say capitalize on a disability, I know, but then I think there's a big stigma around the idea of a company that is working for this community making profit. So I think a lot of it comes down to exactly what Diego was saying, was philanthropy, and philanthropy's role. They have a much bigger scale, a much bigger reach, and in some cases, they just have a much bigger brand. And so if they have something like that, there's the big ones that people know out there, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, for example. They can play a huge role when it comes to marketplace, I think, and when it comes to connecting the people who are in this space and the players, because very simply, it's cheesy, but we can't do it alone. And so the idea of a marketplace, to me, is it has to be a marketplace. It can't be something that's a nice idea to sort of tout and discuss. It should kind of be the model going forward. Philanthropy has a role, entrepreneurs have a role, venture capitals have a role. So yeah, I think that's my thoughts on that.
I think we have time for one more question with some response. Go ahead.
Sorry. I think that there's one famous sentence that I can say. We agree that we disagree. I don't think that's right what you said, because it's about the customer journey. Yeah, when we do something, then it's about customer journey, and the customer wants to have something. Look at for example tourism. Yeah, it's also quite a variety of people coming to a hotel. It doesn't mean that I have to have a product for every part of this segmented target group. Yeah. So, and the other thing is, there is an ongoing effort now from a company called Enable India, and they want to build up this marketplace that you mentioned. It's called Project Discovery and Dish. Yeah. So look at Enable India, and if you want, I can connect you to them. They really want to build up such a marketplace. They want to really build up a database where you can look into and say, okay, I'm a person with a disability, I have a visual impairment, I live there and there. What is the solution that is around me, and how much does it cost? For example, there are some segmented things. For example, there's one for mobile phones. GARI, the Global Accessibility Research Initiative, yeah, where you can look for smartphones in different places of the world with different accessibility features, for example. Yeah? But the challenge is to bring all them together.
Thank you. If somebody has a very short question, we're limited on time. Somebody have an extra question? I can't believe we just started a whole discussion and nobody has a question. Okay.
I can add to the conversation. I think that what's interesting about what's happening here is, we're talking about various different approaches and various different cultures and backgrounds and expertise. The important part of this conversation is that we're bringing disability to the forefront, right? We're talking about market rates of return. We're talking about niche markets. We're having conversation about disability as a competitive advantage. And so if there's something that I would like to leave us all with is we have the ability to, through these various different models, to reframe disability through our various cultural backgrounds as a competitive advantage for business, for innovation, for resiliency, And that might look in various different ways depending on the cultural background in which we're talking about. But the fact that we're talking about disability as a source of innovation, as a source of creativity, as a source of competitive advantage is very different for how we were talking about disability even 5 years, 10 years ago. So I just want to emphasize the point that let's celebrate that, let's embrace that, and let's capitalize on the efforts that are happening not only in this room, but across the world with this movement.
Thank you, Diego. I think you just set the stage for everybody giving a few final remarks. So, Gideon?
I think we're mentioning philanthropy and government, and this is really the way we have been thinking about it for centuries. The way you balance society between the haves and the have-nots is through taxation, through markets, and through philanthropy. But in the last 15 years, there is a dramatically important new tool, and that is crowdsourcing. Our ability to coalesce resources from a lot of people through many small contributions and then shift them to another space across countries, within countries. And I believe that the future of our space is, we know that philanthropy is awesome. This place exists because of an incredible philanthropist. But we know that philanthropy has not solved our problems. We are in a world of scarcity, dramatic scarcity. Everybody here is looking for money. Everybody in this room is looking for money. A handful of people here are giving money in this conference, right? Total imbalance between demand and supply around money in this place, in this room, look. So what I want to say is that we are in this world where we can crowdsource, and this is a dramatic new development for our space. I can tell that on our web platform, for example, we try to apply it between engineers and programmers and product designers who are willing to donate their skills and people who need them, between people who have manufacturing capabilities and people that need solutions. These are marketplaces that don't have a business model, but they represent an economic model. Okay. The last thing, just one last sentence. I think there should be a pledge. I'd like to suggest that there is a pledge by the Zero Project. If you're a tech entrepreneur, you don't go to market, you open your code. We have too many ideas locked under IP that nobody will ever use. Nobody will make money from them, and nobody else can use. So there should be a pledge, at least among us. If you have an idea IP'd, you didn't make it to the market, open it, please.
Okay, thank you, Gideon. Very quickly, Archie, last thoughts?
Sure, I think from my side, I think having been in this space for about 7 years, it's just the dramatic, I think, surge in the attention that this space is receiving. And from a venture capital side, there's a lot more interest in this space. From an entrepreneur side, there's a lot more opportunity in this space. And it's just something I think is really incredible to notice. So as a quick kind of closing remark, I'm just very excited to see where the space keeps going. Yes, there's all these things to talk about, but there's a lot more really exciting stuff that's coming our way. So it's really cool.
Hey, Klaus, you have the final say, very quickly.
Thank you. Yeah. I think we've got to mention one tendency which is coming up now, and it's the use of artificial intelligence. Most of the products, or some of the products that are on the market, or some of the solutions that are on the market will be obsolete because we have artificial intelligence, and there's a quick changing market now at the moment. We have many solutions coming up, and we don't know how to judge are these solutions really do they fit to the market, and are they hallucinating? Let's say like ChatGPT is doing. Yeah, that's one of the things we have also to consider.
Well, thank you, everybody, for a lively discussion. It really got lively towards the end. We probably could have gone on for another 2 hours and really opened it up for some broadly, but panelists will be around the conference, and if you have any ideas or like to touch base with them, please do. Thank you again for coming.
What a job, what a job. Thank you.
Great.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
You guys.
So, debating if I stay here.